Hi everyone, welcome back to the Swoop. I am your host, as occasionally I should say, but I'm back, don't worry. We are here with What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas, Zack Carreon, the relationship guru, Ryan Strodtbeck, and Chase, not afraid to slide into LinkedIn DMs, Bachman. So right off the bat, something happened yesterday that I know really hurt Zack. The Pacers broke LeBron's streak of 21 straight first-round playoff victories with a 98-80 win. So, Zack, what happened last night?
Look, I don't want to point fingers at anybody, Autumn, and it's no one person's fault, but Jeff Green absolutely blew it for the Cavs. He had 25 minutes on the court. That's quite a few minutes. You know how many shots he made? Zero.
So you be more careful. You said that looks like three.
Not three.
But go ahead. Sorry.
Zero shots made for Jeff Green. That is huge. You can't have that, especially against a team like the Pacers, who are actually a very good ball club. They looked horrible in just about every aspect of the game. We knew they were going to be bad on defense, but we thought the offense could pick up the slack a little bit, and of course they did not. But am I worried? Am I worried, Ryan? Am I worried? Of course I'm not worried.
You're not
because
worried.
You know why? You know
We
why?
got
We got LeBron James,
LeBron.
Ryan. There's no need to be worried because LeBron James is on my basketball team. And when LeBron James is on your basketball team, you don't lose in the first round. You might lose a game, maybe even two. Probably not two, though. And I'm not worried because we're going to get the next one in Cleveland, and then we're going to get the next two in Indiana.
No.
It's not a problem. You know?
It's not a problem. I'm saying it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Remember when the Cavs were down to the Bulls? I believe it was 2015.
Yes.
Cavs were down to the Bulls. Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, that team.
Yeah.
Derrick Rose hit buzzer beater. Everybody's
Great
worried.
team.
And then LeBron hit that buzzer beater, changed the momentum of that whole series. I'm not worried at all. I don't think Victor Oladipo is going to shoot as well as he did in Game 1, man. He was lights out in Game 1. LeBron, he wasn't his best in that first quarter. It was a slow start for the Cavs. If they don't have that slow start in that first quarter, they could have easily been in that ball game all the way throughout. But that first quarter really hobbled them. They were only down 8 going into the third quarter. So it makes you wonder if they would have played like the second and third quarter like they were the whole game, then they could have had a chance at the end. But unfortunately, they did not. So, I mean, I'm not worried about the Cavs right now. I mean, talk to me in a week. We'll see what happens. But I think the Pacers, they're a good team. Everybody's not underrating them as a ball club, and I think that they have all the talent that needs to be a good ball club, but I just think the Cavs are more talented, and they stole one from the Cavs in Game 1, but we'll see how the rest of the series plays out.
Look, I don't think it's so much that it was Jeff Green's fault that he blew it for the Cavs. I think it's the Cavs team as a whole. They've been unfocused this entire season. They're still trying to get back into playoff mode as they were the year before. They've been able to lock in, but this time, not so much. They're trying to lock in. They're trying to focus, and it's not so much Jeff Green as it is the entire team, and that includes LeBron. As awesome as he's been, maybe he plays a little uninterested at times, and I think we've seen that throughout the season. Not so much in the playoffs. It's only been one game, but we want to see a little bit more engagement from LeBron. I think that the good news for the Cavs fans is that this is the best possible game in which the Pacers could play. I don't think that they're going to get any better than this, especially not for 4 games. So it's really good news for the Cavs fans, knowing that this is the best possible scenario for the Pacers, is that they can get a game, maybe 2 games. But other than that, the Cavs ceiling is much, much higher than Victor Oladipo and the Pacers can go. And so I think it's very clearly still LeBron's series if he chooses to take over, which he will. So I'd have to give the series to the Cavs still. I'm not worried yet. I think the LeBron and the Cavs win in 6.
So what I noticed yesterday was a lot of issues in the defense. So what do you guys at home? Make sure you tweet us your opinion on the playoffs moving forward with hashtag #SwoopIn so we can figure out what exactly is going on with the Cavs team. So what do you guys think that they need to work on moving forward?
Well, I think a big part of their struggles this entire season, at the beginning, they were too old. They made the trades, they made a bunch of moves, and now they're too young. They have guys on the team that have never been to the playoffs before, especially gone deep into the playoffs. So we don't know how this team's going to react to adversity on a big stage like the playoffs. So we're going to have to see how that turns out, but LeBron is on the team. If anybody can get young guys ready to play in a big moment, it's LeBron James. You just follow his lead, and he will take you to victory.
Yeah, that's something LeBron mentioned in his press conference after the game, is that this first game was overwhelming for some of the players on the team. I mean, you talk about it, some of them, it was their first time playing in that playoff scenario, and you cannot simulate that in practice, like LeBron said. So I think experience is going to help the Cavs here. And just like you said, follow LeBron's lead. Follow the veterans who have been there, done that before, and I think the Cavs will be fine. I also think Ty Lue needs to adjust the lineup a little bit. Like you mentioned before, Jeff Green struggled a lot. I don't think Jeff Green should be playing as much as he did, even though I think he could be a good player, role player. I don't think he's good enough to be
he is a good role player, but he did not show up at all.
No.
But a guy that did show up was J.R. Smith,
Yeah.
who has struggled all season long. And he always seems to show up in the playoffs. Now, that wasn't the case last year, especially in the finals, but he seems to come up in big moments, and he did in Sunday's game, but it clearly was not enough.
This is the difference between teams like the Pacers and teams like Cleveland or Golden State. They can be down a couple of games, they could be down a game or two, and they can still come back. That's the difference between them and the Pacers. Once the Pacers are down, and I believe they will be, once they get down 1 or 2 games, that's when they start to fall apart. Chemistry-wise, skill-wise, Victor Oladipo doesn't have the experience in the playoffs. He's been deep in the playoffs with Oklahoma City, but he's never had the leadership role that he has with the Pacers. And once he's neutralized, per se, by LeBron and the Cavs, and this is my prediction, is that he'll be neutralized by the Cavs defense once they finally decide to focus in games 2 and 3. He'll not have the ability to come back or bounce back the way LeBron and other teams do.
Yeah, it was something weird to see coming from the Cavs last night. And like you said, they're going to be fine going forward. If LeBron's on your team, you're good to go. So switching gears a little bit, this was Chase's first year experiencing the NFL Broadcast Bootcamp. And I know it made a huge impression on you. And as a freshman, it was probably kind of a little intimidating. Can you explain a little bit about that? But first, we got to talk about what exactly is the Broadcast Bootcamp. So do you want to talk about that?
Right. So, and you hit the nail on the head there, intimidating. So the thing about the Broadcasting Bootcamp, typically the NFL Films or NFL Player Engagement hosts the Broadcasting Bootcamp, in which they take current and former players and engage them with a bootcamp teaching them skills on broadcasting, writing, radio, television presence, the ability to deliver news, and all these skills. And usually they take them to their studio in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. That studio is currently under construction and renovation, so they bring them here because of our a connection to alumni Dick Maxwell, who was an NFL broadcasting executive for like 36 years. And so they've brought him here to the Cooling Center, and it's this great studio where all these NFL players have come together and they've learned the skills of broadcasting. Players such as KJ Wright for the Seattle Seahawks. There's Nate Washington, a local product. He played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, won 2 championships. Tons of recognizable players. I know Amon Green, the all-time leading rusher for the Green Bay Packers. All these guys come in, and the thing I noticed most, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but they did really make progress. I know that they come in and there's kind of the stigma that professional players don't do as well in front of the camera and that they struggle, transitioning from the field to the stage, rather, or the desk. And so I think you saw a lot of progress here. So that's one thing I noticed. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why they're here. They're here to improve their skills, here to improve on something that they aren't used to, and that's in front of being in camera. They're used to playing on the sidelines, and I think a lot of them, they actually, when I was doing my part, I was helping out with the radio segments and stuff like that. They actually did all really well. They gave their opinions. They expressed it really well, and they got tips afterwards, and they were really nice guys. I mean, coming in, you think these guys probably would have maybe huge heads or something like that because they played in the NFL, one of the biggest stages in the world. But these guys were the nicest people you've probably met ever, because they just really wanted to learn. They really wanted to get better at their craft. And I mean, I think it was a good experience for them and us at the same time, because we learned tips from them and we learned tips that they were learning as well. So I think for us, it was a good learning experience, and for them, it was a good learning experience as well.
And I think that the thing that nobody recognizes is that these are the really good guys, the ones that are really conscious about their career and the trajectory and where they're headed after playing football. I think a lot of people aren't prepared to transition off the field, to go from making $1 million a year to making no dollars a year. It's really hard for a lot of players. So I think I commend them for having the self-awareness and the with-itness to understand that there's a life after football and to prepare for it the way they do.
I think one of the best parts, too, about the Broadcast Bootcamp is these players come in just looking for help. So they're willing to take advice from professors, the professionals that are coming in, and especially the students. So I think one of the funniest moments that I was in helping them read the teleprompter, which they had never read the script ahead of time. So we tell them, usually you read a script ahead of time, but then they could also do a little bit of impromptu. So they could talk about anything and everything. So some of them talked about their kids, talked about food that they loved. And the funniest moment I experienced was someone said to me, do you do this? Like, this is your job. This is what you want to do. I said, yes, I'm in school. And the first time you go in front of the camera can be terrifying. So to have these 6-foot guys come in and say that they're scared to you is kind of funny. So what did you, I know you walked by a few times, looked in, and you weren't able to help because you do have a busy schedule, I'm sure.
Well, actually, no, I did not walk by because I was in Las Vegas, Nevada at this time.
Correct. Well, before when we were setting up and everything.
Oh, yeah. So
Can you explain the excitement?
I mean, like, I really wasn't here for most of the excitement, but they were just putting up all the signs, which I guess was pretty exciting.
Right.
You know, there was rumors about certain players being here that they weren't here, but I mean, that's pretty much all I know about it. It seemed like a good time. I saw some stuff on Twitter and things like that. So I'm glad you guys got to experience that.
So talk about Las Vegas. What did you do while you were in Las Vegas?
I mean, we can't really talk about most of that, but I did go to a conference, the NAB conference. I'm not sure what NAB actually stands for. But I didn't learn a ton. But I got to see a lot of stuff. I got to use some new high-tech camera equipment, some stuff that looks very similar to the things we have right here in the beautiful Cooling Studios. I saw a RoboCam that moves like the bass moves.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's not out yet. It's not even on
So
the
when
market.
are we
It's
getting
top
that?
secret.
So when it comes on the market,
Whoa,
make sure that we get this
I'm-
here. Anyone
I'm
watching,
breaking
make sure
secrets
we
right
have
here,
it
live
here in
on
the
television.
studio.
Breaking news.
Breaking news, we have robotic cameras.
And you unfortunately did not accept the award for Ryan because Ryan could
I
not
know,
make it.
what's up
But
with
explain
that?
to our audience what award you did win this past
Oh, okay.
year.
So we applied for the NAB works with the BAA, which is another.
All these acronyms.
I know. I mean, it's
No
something,
one
but
does.
it's like a broadcaster's award, and I applied. I did a game with Brendan Hall back in November, the men's basketball versus San Jose State, and I applied using some of my play-by-play and Brendan's analysis. And we applied. We got third place, recognized out of those people. So we're very proud of the award, and we're hoping that BGRSO gets more recognition and more awards as we go on.
And
So-
oh,
go ahead.
one more thing. Also, a shout out to our lovely radio station,
Yes.
WBGU
Yes.
88.1 FM, won best college station, I believe. Yes.
One of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Honored.
So as you can tell, within the Cooling Center, we have a ton of stuff going on. And it's sad to say that this is our second to last show, but it's fun to highlight the stuff that our co-hosts are doing, myself, and everyone in the Cooling Center is working on. But including that, so on the video side, we had a few students go to the BG Spring game. Zach, you were spearheading that, so how was the game? What are your expectations going into next fall?
Well, I was a little disappointed because the spring game this year was played inside the Deutsch Perry Fieldhouse and not the Deutsch Perry Stadium like everybody was hoping.
Is that
But
the third year that in a row that it hasn't?
I believe
been
it
played
is.
outside?
I believe it is. The
I don't
third
even
year.
think they had a spring game last year.
No, they had a spring game last year, I believe.
I don't think so.
Did they not have a spring game?
I don't think so.
Well, regardless. I
Well,
mean,
whatever. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I just
So-
thought it was.
Zach,
strange.
continue your point.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. I really want a true spring game where the fans can come out to the stadium and see everything and see the team in full action. We didn't quite get that, but the team did run through some plays, and we got to see so the starters play, we got to see the backups play, we got to see everybody get a turn in, and pretty good turnout crowd-wise for an indoor event. And our young reporter, Chase Bachman, did some interviews that turned out great.
Yeah, I
I
think
saw
it
you
was.
got to interview Mike Jinx. What did he
did.
have to say about the upcoming season?
Well, according to him, it was not a spring game, it was a spring event. And for the record, this is one of the best interviews of my fledgling career. He mentioned we were plagued by injuries, the team was, and that's typical in spring. You have to deal with injuries from either the last season or you're in practice and you have guys heal up during the summer and they come in either right before the beginning of the season or during the season. So that's something that's going to plague them throughout this offseason, and they're going to work with that as most teams have to. So that's one thing that they're looking out for. I think that he was really impressed with Jarrett Dagey and his quarterback play because when he came in the middle of the season, he did quite well statistically. I believe it was the second best statistical season for a quarterback as far as passing yards and completions, although I could be wrong on that.
I think by a true freshman.
By
By
a true
true
freshman,
freshman,
so yeah,
yeah.
asterisk, however you see fit. Anyway, I think that there's some potential to look forward to. I think that Carl Pelini who's the new defensive coordinator, is going to do a swell job as far as giving offenses in the MAC different looks and trying to confuse them and trying to make life difficult for them, because that was something that was so difficult for us as far as a defense for the Falcons, is making life uncomfortable for those MAC teams. So that's something that we look forward to improving.
Yeah, and the defense is a huge thing, and I think adding a guy like Carl Pelini, who's not only a great defensive mind, but also a big name who is going to attract recruits in the future. Frankly, we don't always have the personnel for a solid defense, so no matter what scheme we use, we usually just can't keep up. And that may or may not be the case this year. We will see when the regular season starts, but it's a sign of good things to come in the future. This defense has a lot of room to improve, and I think they will. There was a few moments where they didn't quite step up during the spring game, but of course that's also because of the great quarterback play of Jared Dagey, who was nearly perfect in his limited amount of time throwing the ball.
I think expectations are going to be a little higher this year. I mean, last year, Coach Jinx, obviously still not a good year. It was his second year at BG. This year, I think some of his recruits are still starting to mature, and this is the season where they are the juniors now, some of them. And I think Dino didn't really leave him a lot to work with when he left for Syracuse. He left him with the bare cabinet, as we like to say. So a lot of players, I think, are starting to come and adapt Jinx's system. I think this is a year where we fully see what Jinx is capable of. Is it going to be a flop like the previous 2 years, or are things going to start changing around? And with Jared Dagey, I think it all rests on his shoulders, because that is a Jinx recruit. Dagey's brother is a coach on the team. And I think if Dagey does well, it's going to bode well for the Falcons' upcoming season. If not, it may be another rough year for the Falcons, and we may be looking at a new head coach next year.
That is true. Dagey is his guy, that he's from Texas. And I think if this is not a good year for the Falcons, he's going to be in some serious trouble, because at this point there's no more excuses. All his guys are in. Andrew Clare, one of the guys he recruited as well, he is going to be a big ball carrier coming up this season. So if they can't get it done, especially in the MAC this year, I think the pressure is really going to be on Coach Jinx.
And I think the most frustrating thing is the fact that Jinx recruits so remarkably well, because you've seen the last couple of years he's had the second and third best recruiting classes, only behind UT, and we see UT just up by 75 is doing so much better. So I think fans are frustrated. They want to see the kind of results that UT delivers with those recruits. So I think that's one thing that fans are really frustrated with.
I know we put a lot of pressure on Jinx at the end of the season. I know we talked about it here as well. We were kind of like, is he going to be back? Is he sticking around? We don't really know. But like you guys said, I think I can agree that it's time to put pressure on him. This is his year. We've got all his recruits, but would you say it's going to be a better season than last?
Well, I've been putting pressure on him since year one for
Correct.
people that have followed this show. I think when we started like 0-8 his first year coaching, I was already calling for it, or at least mentioning it. Maybe some people weren't too happy about that. But if there's time to put pressure on him, and maybe I was a little harsh before, the time is now. But I think most fans are pretty positive about this year. Jinx himself seemed very positive in his interview. The players seemed very positive about the season to come. The fans, they were loving it while they were there. Roger Lewis of the New York Giants was in attendance. I saw him in the parking lot. I saw some other guy.
Stalk him down.
Yeah, some guy had a Rolls Royce. I mean, not to, I don't know who it was, but somebody had a Rolls Royce.
But there's definitely interest around the program now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think a lot of people were saying, oh, if he doesn't do well in the first 4 games, then Jinx has got to be gone. I don't think that's the case. Bowling Green's going to have a tough non-conference schedule. They have Maryland coming here too. This is going to be a tough non-conference schedule for Bowling Green.
But an away game at Oregon as well.
Yes, an away game at Oregon. So I think you got to give Jinx at least to the end of the season. You cannot fire him mid-season, because that won't do well for the program. That won't do well for the players. That won't do well for anybody. After the season, you evaluate your head coaching decision, and then you make your decision. You do not want to be that MAC school that fires your coach mid-season, because it just will not look well, and it's just going to be a scramble to find some consistency within the program.
Well, it looks like we have about 10 minutes left in the show, but that also means we have 10 days left until the NFL draft. What are you expecting to come out of this week?
I'm just hoping for a non-disaster, really, personally. I'm a Browns fan, as many of you may know, so this is my Super Bowl. It's bigger to me than any football game in the world, it's really better than any football game in the world, because what's more exciting than the draft? Looking towards the future, the bright future of my lovely Cleveland Browns, and this is the year we draft a quarterback #1 overall, and it better be Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen, or I'm going to riot in the streets and, I don't know, jump off a building or something.
Well, actually, I'll bring this in now. We had a poll on Twitter asking you guys who you think the first pick in the draft will be. 44% of you said Sam Darnold.
Yes.
There you go. 21% said Josh Allen. 5% said Josh Rosen. And 30% said Saquon Barkley.
Wow.
So did they do?
No.
Right? No.
I think Sam Darnold's the right choice, and I don't think you take a running back at 1. I don't think they add that value as much as a quarterback can, and I think that Saquon Barkley is actually more overrated than a lot of people think. I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to be as well as Ezekiel Elliott did in his first season, as well as Alvin Kamara down in New Orleans did in his first season. I don't think Saquon Barkley can add that value to the Cleveland Browns. Can he add it to another team? Maybe. But I still don't think that Saquon Barkley is as good as an NFL prospect as many are taking it.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think
That's
he's
okay,
maybe the best running back prospect in the past 10 years, besides Zeke, of course, who I think really came into a perfect situation with the Cowboys. I think if you pass up Saquon Barkley at #4, the Browns are going to regret it maybe for the next 30 years.
The Browns are definitely going to take a quarterback at 1, whether it's Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen. Let's all.
Well, I saw a very troubling headline. I believe it was USA Today. They had their own mock draft, and I believe they had Josh Allen going #1 overall, which was very troubling.
That's a lot of what the rumors are right now. Is Josh Allen going to go #1? But bear with me. The Browns are going to select the quarterback at 1 no matter what.
Absolutely.
At 4, that's where it gets interesting, because hopefully at 4 you'll still have Bradley Chubb or Saquon Barkley left. And from my perspective, I think they should draft Bradley Chubb out of Georgia, because I think pairing him with Myles Garrett, you're going to be taking off the heads of Ben Roethlisberger, Andy Dalton, and Joe Flacco for the next 5 years combined. And to me, that is much better looking than it would be if I took Saquon Barkley. Because we got Carlos Hyde, we've got Duke Johnson, those running backs.
Why not
can
add
produce.
an extra element to it? Why not add Saquon
But why
Barkley?
would you add Saquon Barkley to an offense
Because he's
that
going to
has
be dangerous
weapons?
on another team.
Yes,
he's
but
going to be used against you.
Yo, so what?
I think Bradley
Chubb can do the same
It's
thing.
a good pick. It's a good pick. It's a safe pick. Okay, but we can't be safe
Yes,
anymore.
we can. We've
The
got
Browns
the
have
pieces.
been taking safe picks for over a decade.
Joe Thomas was a safe pick, and he went on to be the greatest O-lineman in Browns history.
Right, we still lost all those years.
Yes, that's great.
did-
But
and
what
he
value
was
does
a
a running back's lifespan in the NFL is about
Chase.
5 years.
Hey,
And you're
Chase,
going to
yeah.
tell me that for 5 years Saquon Barkley's going to turn this Browns away? I'd rather have 8 good years of Bradley Chubb than 5 good years of Saquon
It's not
Barkley.
like Saquon Barkley is getting thrust into a starting position where he's going to be carrying the ball
But
every single play.
exactly,
There's Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson to take the pressure off.
All right, let's see. Chase, what do you have to say about this? What
Right.
side do you take?
Oh,
Well,
my God.
Here's the thing. I agree with Zach that Sam Darnold should be taken first. Ryan, I thought you were crazy for a while talking about how overrated Saquon Barkley is. Now, I believe that he's one of the safest picks as far as running backs go in the last couple of years. But it's not crazy to think that he's going to drop back in this draft, because I know that as far as this whole draft goes, it's been a lot of safe picks. They talk about Quentin Nelson being the safest offensive guard pick in the last couple of years. Bradley Chubb's supposed to be the safest defensive end. Minka Fitzpatrick is supposed to be the safest safety. So there's a lot of safe picks. And so really, Cleveland couldn't go wrong with whatever it does. I think as long as it takes the safe pick in Darnold over perhaps a Josh Allen, who I believe is a more raw athlete, I think that they're better off going with Darnold with the first pick. And then the 4th pick, I think you could go with a plethora of options that includes Minka Fitzpatrick, Quentin Nelson, Bradley Chubb, although I believe that they're going to go with Saquon Barkley just because they love what he can do. He can add value, and I think that they realize that the closer you are to the ball, the more value you add. And so when it comes to quarterbacks, running backs, they find them more valuable than perhaps a safety does. But I know that teams, especially Cleveland, they also realize that there are 2 important aspects about building your football team once you have a quarterback. It's protecting the quarterback and getting to the quarterback. So there's a whole plethora of options, and that's what makes the draft so interesting, is that there's so many routes that they could go. Although I believe that they'll go with Saquon Barkley, I could be wrong. There's so many options that they could go with.
Here's another option I'd rather actually see this option over Saquon Barkley is Denzel Ward, the cornerback out of Ohio State. The Browns need somebody to cover those receivers, and I think Denzel Ward would be a great pick. And if the Browns need to, they can still trade down and get Denzel Ward, add to that draft capital, add more talent to that squad. I think that could be a best-case scenario for this Browns team.
And I think Denzel Ward fills a bigger need for the Cleveland Browns
Exactly.
than Bradley Chubb. Yes, it's always good to put pressure on the quarterback, but it doesn't really matter if the receiver is going to be open anyway, which is the case for the Cleveland Browns, where our defensive backs are absolutely atrocious as a whole.
Or lining up 30 yards back from the ball.
Yeah, you know.
No big deal.
Yeah.
No long passes.
Are you sure? Chase, you got anything else for us?
Well, I think that once you move past the Sam Darnold pick at first, so you go with Darnold, the first overall pick, I think that it's really confusing or really unclear what exactly the Giants want to do and what the Jets are going to do conversely. So I think that the Giants should make the smart move and go with Rosen first. I think that he would be the better pick. I think he fits well under that system with Eli. I think that he would develop really nicely in that system. So I think that the Giants would be doing themselves a favor by drafting Rosen. They have their quarterback of the future. I can't really imagine him anywhere else but New York. And so conversely, New York has to go with Josh Allen with the third pick. I mean, they don't have to, but it seems like the most logical choice at that point, unless they would want to go with a running back. But we know that they've been starving for a quarterback for how many years now. They want to have a guy that they can develop, and so Josh Allen appears to be that guy. So I believe that Josh Allen could be the third pick.
You take Josh Allen over
I think
Josh
Baker
Rosen?
Mayfield better.
You think Baker Mayfield?
I think Baker Mayfield's a better prospect than a lot of people are giving credit. I think Baker Mayfield goes to the Jets at 3. Josh Rosen goes to the Broncos.
I think Baker Mayfield got kind of lost.
See,
in a
it
little
depends
bit.
on
He's
who
been
you ask,
overshadowed.
because you have a mixture of people that are thinking that Saquon Barkley is going to drop way back, and then you have a mixture of people that think Baker Mayfield kind of gets lost in the heap. So there's two different groups of people, and it depends on who you think. I think that Baker Mayfield's the guy who drops all the way back to the 11th pick. I don't think he's as highly rated as people seem to think he is. I think he drops back to maybe a Raiders or a Dolphins pick. Dolphins obviously more likely.
Dolphins would be a good pick, yep.
So you have a couple of options there, but I think that Mayfield is obviously the one that will move back farther in the draft. I think Saquon is more likely at 4 than Mayfield.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty
Autumn,
solid.
do you have anything to add?
I think that was pretty good. I think you covered all of our bases. Any last points on anything he said? Because I know sometimes you guys like to argue his points.
Browns will make the playoffs.
Wow.
That's
Whoa.
Strong
Well, no.
opinion, but-
You're
Well,
just
the
saying
AFC North is weak.
singular thing.
The AFC North is very weak.
Okay.
Okay.
Continue.
The Cincinnati Bengals, irrelevant, obviously. Baltimore
Okay.
on the way out. Pittsburgh on the way out. There's only one team left.
Cleveland.
You win
Yeah,
like
we got
you win like
Tyrod.
8 games.
We got Jarvis.
No
We got
faith for
Josh.
Pittsburgh?
We got Corey. We got David Njoku. We got a good defense. Watch out.
Are you guys agreeing right
Watch
now?
out.
Because
We're kind of
Well, I
agreeing.
mean,
like a
we're
few minutes
Browns
ago,
fans.
you
We're
I
kind of
thought
biased.
I
We're
was
kind of
gonna
biased
have
here,
to, like,
but
cut in there. I wasn't
we're kind of
sure.
biased, but you know, it doesn't hurt.
Like this is a promising team. This Cleveland
Yeah.
Browns team. Tyrod Taylor at the
They're
helm.
the Buffalo Bills of this year.
We'll have a rookie quarterback as the backup, learning from Tyrod Taylor, the genius. And of course, there's going to be plenty of targets to throw to. And I think this offense is going to turn a lot of heads. I'll say that.
Watch
Okay.
out.
All right.
Watch out. Watch out, NFL. We're coming for you. Watch out. Watch out, New England. You're next.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much for all of your points. So we know that you're just saving your hashtag swoop in questions for next week because we didn't see any today, but I know they are brewing for tomorrow.
Somebody vote for Josh Rosen, number 1. 5%? Really?
Yeah, only 5%. Just throw that
Do you
paper
need
out. We're
these notes
done.
still? Okay.
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right.
We're actually nearing the end of the
5%.
show. This is our second to last show, so tune in next week, like I said. Find out if Zach has any more
Surprising not to do his name on there.
hopes and prayers for his Browns team.
Oh, Josh Allen
So
was
for
21%.
myself, Autumn Stevens, and my co-hosts Zack Carreon, Ryan Strodtbeck, and Chase Bachman, we will see you next week. And thank you, Falcon fans.
Josh Allen, 21%? Really?